As somebody who loves the PS1 golden age of Squaresoft JRPGs like Vagrant Story and Parasite Eve 2, but never got to play Chrono Cross due to it never having been released in Europe like many massively popular JRPGs of its time, I now finally have that chance with Chrono Cross Radiant Dreamers Edition, and I have to say from the second I saw the intro playing, I knew I was in for a nostalgic trip even from a game I'd never played. Hello there everyone, how are you today beautiful? My name is Joesephyr and today I'm going to be taking you through my video review of Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition and ultimately helping you to decide whether or not you should buy this game. Now first things first, a massive thank you goes out to Square Enix for providing me with an early access code for the game so that I could play as much as I could before bringing you this review, and I also encourage you to check out all of my other social platforms with a particular mention to Twitch, where you could be finding me streaming 5 days a week, various JRPGs, Final Fantasy, maybe even Chrono Cross as well. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can simply give the video a like, which helps me to beat that pesky YouTube algorithm, or you can join up with my Patreon and get additional benefits such as handmade title cards, private streams and voice chats, and shoutouts in my videos too. Now speaking of those shoutouts, in today's video I'm going to be shouting out one of my patrons at random like I always do, and today that person is going to be Kellen, who I know is a big fan of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, as you can well see in their title card, as it contains Frog. So a massive thank you goes out to you and all of my other patrons, as without you I wouldn't have the platform that I currently have. So for those of you who have never played or heard of Chrono Cross, it's a classic style JRPG that is touted as a sequel to the legendary Super Nintendo RPG Chrono Trigger, providing hours of story-based gameplay with a turn-based battle system, orchestral scores, and a ton of recruitable party members, so many in fact that you won't get them all in a single playthrough. With regards to the said ties to its predecessor, without spoiling anything, having recently played Chrono Trigger, the links to this game are slightly more unique than a simple sequel, so it always kind of feels incorrect to call it that. Now, Chrono Cross was called a masterpiece of its time when it was released back in 1999 for the PS1, but the question remains, however, how does a game that's nearly 25 years old and called such a magnificent title hold up in 2022? Now, it takes a short while to get to grips with some of its more nuanced mechanics and the lack of an instruction manual that we were all used to back in those days, but largely, I'm very happy to say that it does. So what Radical Dreamers Edition is a remastered version of Chrono Cross, updating its visuals via upscaling backgrounds, higher resolution character models, brand new character art for every character, which is stunning, by the way, so old school and yet refreshed, and it just looks amazing. A remastering of its already stellar soundtrack. Seriously, listen to this intro theme for a second. As well as a text-based adventure only previously released on the Satellivision, which was a Japan-exclusive extension to the Super Nintendo called Radical Dreamers. That, while it doesn't reinvent the wheel and sell the experience on its own, it's probably going to have Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross lore junkies gasping for breath if they haven't already seen it. I didn't spend as much time with Radical Dreamers as I wanted to focus primarily on Chrono Cross itself, but the short time I did spend with it was very reminiscent of a choose-your-own-adventure style book of the 90s, but accompanied with cute music and backdrops and an extension of the story of both the Chrono games that forms the foundation of what would become Chrono Cross. Now, considering quite how old Chrono Cross is, it's truly impressive how well the writing and the characters hold up in 2022. The designs of each character are wildly varied and unique, and there's well over 40 different playable characters here, which is a staggering amount in any JRPG, let alone one over 20 years old, giving you plenty of room to, well, pick your favourites. And the plot is extremely intricate, so you'll want to be paying attention as much as you possibly can so you don't miss anything, but it's very rewarding and it has twists and turns regularly, but not so frequently that they outstay their welcome and they just become ridiculous. Now, you absolutely do not need to have played Chrono Trigger to enjoy Chrono Cross, as the stories are very capable of standing on their own, but if you are like me and you have played Chrono Trigger but not Chrono Cross, there's a lot of moments and revelations that you're going to appreciate all the more. So the gameplay loop of Chrono Cross, much like Trigger before it, is actually very ahead of its time, removing random battles in favour of seeing monsters on screen for you to fight or flee from. Now there are other RPGs that do this as well, but of its time, but Chrono Cross is definitely one of them, and it does it very well. As well as having a progression system that awards level ups after boss fights in the form of level stars, as opposed to outright just grinding a numerical value for your levels. And max stat upgrades come from these level stars that allow you to grind a little bit, but only up to a certain point. So endless grinding isn't really going to do you an awful lot of favours, and realistically it means you don't actually have to do it at all if you don't really want to. Every character has techniques, some of which line up with other characters to make double or even triple techniques, and some of them are very cool to behold. And the magic system is done in form of elements, which are spells and items and traps combined that are equipped into a grid to be used once per fight, before they are restored at the end of the fight, which means that you can equip multiples of the same one for extra uses or of varying levels depending on where you place them on the grid, and can always be focusing on the fight at hand rather than worrying about how much MP you have or anything similar to that whilst going through a dungeon. And then you could just keep your attention on what you're doing at any given moment. Now, combining this with innate elemental affinities of each character, a weak, medium, or strong attack style that you can use stamina for however you wish, and the field element system that rewards clever use of elements to change the way the next elemental attack is going to work, whether it be stronger or weaker. And there's a really highly intricate and detailed system here that stays both traditional and still retains its uniqueness all at once. As for the remaster itself, I do feel that this is the only area in which Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition could have been improved slightly, and that's only in the sense that while, yes, Chrono Cross is a PS1 title, it still feels like a PS1 title, in that the frame rate is pretty wild at times, it can slow down, and belies all of the effort that's been put into the new menus, the character models, and all of the other upgrades. And it would have been wonderful to have seen the game run at a smooth 60 or even 30 frames per second constantly, but after you're used to modern games, it might take a little while getting used to going backwards in time. But hey, that is what the game is all about after all, and it definitely captures that old school PS1 feel. And a lot of the modern upgrades to the PS1 Final Fantasy games can also be seen here, with simple button presses both increasing or decreasing the speed of the game, which is a feature that actually was in the original Chrono Cross, but you had to finish the game first, as well as boosts and auto-battling for those who might want them. Now, I don't know about you, but as somebody who's played a lot of RPGs, both modern and classic, playing any older RPG that doesn't at least have access to speed-ups or auto-battling honestly feels like a chore, and so seeing these kind of features integrated into older games is always a welcome addition to me. So at the end of the day, what's the question we're all asking here? Should you buy Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition? Now honestly, at $20 or £15.99, this is an absolute steal for anyone who wants to scratch that classic JRPG itch, knowing that they're playing or replaying. This game definitely wants to be played more than once, a game that's been heralded as a masterpiece by so many people. Now, if you're like me and you've played Chrono Trigger, but you haven't played Chrono Cross, whether it's because it wasn't released in your country or you simply just missed it, stop this video and just go and buy the game, because you will appreciate it. It'll take a little while to get used to some of its mechanics if you're used to more modern games, but once you get that click, it just feels incredible. If you haven't played Trigger even, and you enjoy the PS1 golden age of Squaresoft JRPGs, you're in for quite a treat, as honestly, as I showed with the intro earlier, I felt this wave of nostalgia wash over me just like the water in the intro was supposed to do. Now, if you're wanting a complete overhaul of an older game in the form of like a remake like FF7 rather than a remaster, you're not going to find it here. And honestly, I do think it's a lot harder to remaster any early 3D game than it is to do with a pixel art style 2D game such as the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters. Do not worry, I will be covering all of those very shortly as well. I just wanted to make sure I got through all and every single one of them before I started making videos on them. But what's been done here most certainly portrays Chrono Cross in its most loved form, for better or worse, with regards to a more modern kind of technology of TVs, etc. It doesn't look hideous in your TV, it looks really nice. There's just little bits and pieces that keep that PS1 feel, for better or worse. I'd have still liked a frame rate upgrade. Maybe keeping it the way it was a deliberate decision. You won't be wanting for content with this game either. It's not a short game, and you're going to want to play through it multiple times. Now, I still find myself ready to want to platinum trophy this game, go straight back in again for all the characters that I missed the first time round, and we honestly haven't seen many of the PS1 Golden Era RPGs come out in this way, particularly not the ones that people like me in Europe never got to play. So if Square Enix or anyone else wants to start making more of these in the same way they've done Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition, I'm ready to receive them. So when can we get hold of Xenogears and Legend of Dragoon? And that's going to be all from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you once again to Square Enix for gifting me a code for the game so I could bring this review to you all. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below whether you plan on buying Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition. Did you play Chrono Cross the first time around? Did you play Chrono Trigger? Are you excited for this game? Talk to me in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications, because I know that pesky algorithm is stopping some of my videos getting some of you guys, and that really sucks. And I really want to share these things with you, so I really would love to see some likes, some subscribes, some notification bells. These things really matter to us YouTubers, so thank you very much in advance if you decide to do that. And as I said earlier, I hope that you've enjoyed your time here today, and I hope to see you next time. So until then, take care everybody. Bye bye.